It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Renee Ritchie, Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay, we're all here. Coming up, why rumor monger John Prosser shaved his eyebrows today. I'll give you a hint. It had to do with the Apple event that didn't happen. Intel versus the M1. Who's the winner? And Tim Apple's pop quiz. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 758, recorded Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. Cookin' Mutton. Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by CacheFly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with CacheFly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cachefly.com. And by IT Pro TV. Expand your skills or launch yourself into a career with IT. Visit itpro.tv/MacBreak for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription. Use the code MacBreak30 at checkout. And by Udacity. Build your tech skills through industry-leading programs created and recognized by top companies worldwide with a nano degree from Udacity in as little as 12 weeks. Visit udacity.com/twit and use the coupon code TWIT at checkout to get 50% off through May 30th, 2021. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And, we thought there might be some snooze from Apple. The only news today is that John Prosser no longer has eyebrows, Renee Ritchie.
This is true. This is accurate. He did it. Crazy SOB did it. There's some education news today. It's not like we didn't get anything. Maybe that was what the 23rd was. It was the day that Apple announces updates to schoolwork and classroom.
Boy, wow. I'm glad I didn't miss that. Wow.
No, I think the 23rd was going to be the date that they fire all of the people inside of Apple that leaked out that 23rd was going to be a big press event day.
Actually, I think Alex Lindsay, by the way, Renee Ritchie, Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay,
the
trio that needs no introduction.
We jumped straight into there. We were like, yeah.
I launched into it. But Alex, you were the one who said that, in fact, I think you said it last week or the week before, that Apple was known to float incorrect stories to see who was leaking.
I think I just mentioned it did happen once.
With Steve apparently
Jobs
it's happened again.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the newer ones, but it definitely has happened in the past.
So Prosser, among others, said there would be an event today. Not last week, but today. So they were half right. Prosser said foolishly in his tweet, "I will shave off my eyebrows."
Did he do it?
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
For charity.
That's an improvement. See, too few men realize that grooming does not stop at the mustache. You need to trim those Andy Rooney style.
He actually
eyebrows.
does not look bad because he has a beetling brow, as they say. But I think a lack of eyebrows can make you look like an alien. Frankly, it's just something a little weird. It looks like, I have to say, he used our sponsor Manscaped's eyebrow trimmer, so that's good.
Maybe this is all a setup, but just a big ad. A big ad for Manscaped. Yeah.
The story, though, was apparently that Apple floated this story to catch leakers.
That's not what I heard.
Okay.
So, and also Mark Gurman said nope. So I think if Mark and I both heard the same thing, that's two different universes. Like my understanding is this was maybe late last year. So, this was an early date they floated just for preliminary planning purposes, and somebody probably heard that and passed it on. But this year at least, in terms of actual solid events, there was nothing ever planned for this week, which is why so many people found it so amusing.
Well, it certainly was good for John Prosser.
Got a lot of legs on that.
Yeah. And then Love to Dream tweeted out going, "I was just talking about the 23rd in general. I think it's a good day. Maybe you give yourself a good meal. I didn't mean anything else." Okay.
So is it safe to say no Apple event in March?
Yeah.
I guess it
would be hard.
They could do it on the 30th.
It would be difficult.
It's April.
I think it would be unlikely.
As far as everyone knows, it's April.
It's April now. Same slate of products in April?
Yeah, iPad Pro, maybe an Apple TV, and AirTags.
We are seeing iPad Pro kind of weird little leaks. Pat and Quill apparently accidentally tipped a new iPad Pro with a case. They're little tidbits here and there coming out. So I guess, and we knew they needed to do it, right? It's been a year.
They sometimes update them, like they usually update them once every 18 months, but last year's update was so, I don't want to call it insignificant because they did add like LiDAR and they did improve like the camera, like added a second camera. So it wasn't like a spec bump. It was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't a giant update. And they were so far behind on the processor. It was still an A12 that it really is due.
That will be the upgrade is to the A14X.
With mini LED. Can't wait.
Which is essentially an M1 you said last week?
Yeah, it's going to depend on implementation because what would be an A14X is essentially what an M1 is. An M1 is basically an A14X with some virtualization and emulation acceleration and 2 Thunderbolt controllers on the board.
Ooh.
And much more RAM than an iPad usually gets, 8 or 16.
So instead
it just depends if Apple finds it cheaper to fab more of those or make a unique processor.
Instead of a USB Type-C, it will be a Thunderbolt port?
It could be. Well, I hope it is. I really hope it is.
This is
doesn't seem to be anything holding them back at this point.
Are you talking about USB-C as a connector or USB as an interchange device? Excuse me, as a communication standard.
It's a Type-C plug.
So Type-C.
But
Type-C
if you have
Thunderbolt
3 speeds, that would be significant.
Yeah. Well, also if it identified itself to other devices on the bus as a Thunderbolt device, it's. I mean, I've always I think we talked about this last time Renee was on, where I was trying to figure out what kind of thing could you plug into an iPad that would really take advantage of Thunderbolt. The only things that would be really, really significant would be the ability to simply plug in any sort of a video controller to it, and it would simply work. But Apple being Apple, I'm not going to necessarily take it on faith that Apple won't say, "Oh, yes, it's a Thunderbolt display, but we're going to use a special protocol so that it doesn't interfere with whatever we're doing on the iPad."
So USB 3.2, which I presume is what's on there, is 10 gigabits. The second generation is 2-channel for 20 gigabits. Thunderbolt would be double that.
Well, USB 4 incorporates Thunderbolt. So what they have on the Mac now is USB 4, and that basically builds in Thunderbolt 3 into the spec, so you can handle both. And for me, it's been storage because all the storage I use is high speed. It's like the Samsung X2 or X5, whatever they're called.
Yeah, I've been upgrading to Thunderbolt 3 storage, which is very expensive.
They're so much faster, and they don't work on the iPad, which is frustrating.
Yeah. Right. But at the same time, the iPad doesn't have the same relationship with external storage that Windows or anything else does. So it's more like shuttling files one place to another. So it would be
somebody in the chat room said, "Hey, does that mean I can copy a file now?"
Well, just ingesting video, like they make a big deal about being able to edit 4K, but it takes forever to get 4K onto the thing because it's using like the old USB speeds.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why they wouldn't just put an M1 chip into the iPad? It
doesn't use all the silicon, it doesn't use all the IP on the M1. They could and just turn it off. Like the iPhone and the iPad Air use the same chip and they just hit it differently. So I think it really just depends on what's cheaper for them to fabricate, a chip that doesn't include those things or a chip that does and they just turn it off.
But you would want to turn it off for battery life, right? You don't want it to be wasting time powering something that doesn't use.
They're really efficient with their gating, and it is such small things. It's literally virtualization and emulation and I would love 2 ports on an iPad, but I'm not going to expect
2 ports. Come on, now you're going crazy. What are we going to do with all our dongles? So this is Gurman's
brand new ones, which is all they want. They all just always throw out your old dongles. Buy new dongles. Yes.
A week ago, this was I should have paid more attention on Wednesday of last week. Bloomberg, Mark Gurman says Apple plans to announce new iPads as early as April, adding to the product line. It's everything that you've said. M1 chip style, A14X perhaps, mini LED. Which would be brighter and better contrast ratios because it's better local dimming. Yes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. In testing, Gurman says the new iPad Pros have used a Thunderbolt connector, the same port on the latest Macs with custom Apple processors. In other words, it's USB 4.
Yes.
Yes, but it's Thunderbolt 3 compatible.
But it includes a Thunderbolt standard. Yeah.
The port does not require new chargers, according to Gurman. Again, all rumor. Gurman's well connected, but it would enable connectivity with additional external monitors. That's something we didn't mention.
Yeah.
Of course, Thunderbolt hard drives and USB 4 hard drives and other peripherals. faster at syncing data than the current USB-C technology, an Apple spokeswoman declined to comment. But Gurman is pointing out that this was a great year, as we had mentioned before, for the iPad, perhaps because of work from home and school from home, that the iPad sales jumped.
Yeah, it's a huge jump.
And it would be an exciting move towards their messaging that, hey, don't think of the iPad as like a Kindle or as a $100 Amazon Fire tablet. This really is a computer that you should consider if you are on the same budget as what you would be considering to spend on a mid-range or even low-end Windows machine. I mean, I had my sister asked for my advice of, hey, I got $800 to spend on a laptop for my daughter, and I knew I by now, as the geek in the family, everybody will probably commiserate with this, that that okay, I have 10 ideas in my mind. Oh, that's right, they don't want 10 ideas. So I found them like a really nice $800 laptop that runs Windows, because that's what they're used to and that's what they're hoping for. But this is one of the first times I was able to say, well, look, if you really want something that's laptop-like, do at least consider a low-end iPad Pro, because now that there's mouse support and now that there seems to be a real trajectory towards filling in a lot of the gaps that the iPad has traditionally had, it really is a credible choice for someone who has just basic needs for a laptop. So,
not in that budget, though, Andy. It's $999 for the 12, unless you say get an 11-inch. But see, an 11-inch on a laptop's really small.
Again, yeah.
And then you still have to get a keyboard, don't forget.
But you don't have to get the $300 like Magic keyboard. You can get a very, very good $40 or $50 keyboard, a very good $20 or $30 mouse, and all these things are very, very good things to bring up. And I brought that up myself. That's the reason why I'm like, oh, you're a fool to think about laptops. That's still one of the biggest problems when Apple tries to make this case that by the time you buy everything you would need to buy to make it really competitive with a basic $800 laptop, you are really talking about a $1,200 mid-range. Exactly. So
that's in a way that bugs me that Apple. I mean, I guess it doesn't, because I'm the one among others who says, oh yeah, you should at least make one thing that price is no object, and that's the I mean, if you're talking about iPads, that's the iPad Pro 12.9. Yeah.
But the iPad Air is credible as well.
Yeah,
and you could definitely build out.
I've suggested the iPad Air to a number of people now.
Yeah.
Well, and depending on someone's technical background, a lot of times I'll say, well, like, tell me what you're going to do with it.
I always ask
email
that.
And they're going to surf and they're going to do a bunch of other things. I'm
always ask
you might want to think about an iPad, just because you're not going to have issues with the same level of virus attacks and
absolutely.
And especially if it's a family member, I know that whatever I recommend, I'm going to support. So my interest in PCs is pretty low.
I used to say,
actually deal with it.
If you buy a Windows machine, I ain't helping you.
Well, I laid the line down with my family knows that if they ask me any PC questions, I'm going to just say I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Don't know.
Yeah. No, it's so very telling that every time you see what has happened to the PC laptop market, all of the cannibalism has been from iPads and from Chromebooks, because it turns out that people don't necessarily need a full bore desktop operating system. They either need something that is very, very advanced and sophisticated like the iPad, or they need a screen and they need a trackpad and they need a keyboard all connected together with a battery, which the Chromebook will do for them almost just as, for many people, just as well. And as Alex said,
the price.
Or even less, and without any of the maintenance that's involved. I mean, to this day, my Chromebook, my Pixelbook is probably even more reliable than my iPad, but only because it does much less than the iPad does.
Right. Well, and you can. When we haven't had to deal with this, but I noticed before COVID, when you're going through an airport, you would look at like who's using what, and the kids and the everyone below 10 and over 55 were generally using iPads. they're like in iPad land, and then there'd be business travelers
the poor
and
suckers who are still working for a living.
Like the most of the folks from like what you would think of as social networks are all on Macs, and then you'd have the other business folks that are on PCs.
Yeah.
It's kind of breaking.
But then you also
hipsters are on
the other place to check is go to like coffee shops that are kind of near a college campus, because either the kids who go there got like presents from rich parents, or they have a budget And that's where you see a lot of like Acers. That's where you see a lot of Asus laptops because they seem to work fine. And you remember what it's like when you're in college and you know to the penny how much money you have left in your account. And if it's like less than 20, it means that, okay, I guess I'm going to volunteer for that psych lab experiment that gives me $20 because otherwise I won't be able to
use the ATM.
I won't be able to do anything next week. Yeah.
I've been mentoring a high school senior in computer science and programming. And I got, I decided to take the workload off myself to make him watch Harvard's Introduction to Computer Science. It's their biggest class. They do it jointly with MIT CS50. And I was very interested to see that at no point do they make any judgment about what kind of computer you're using. Every tool that they use, it could be used on a Chromebook or an iPad because they're basically web-based tools. Yeah. They don't mention the iPad, but the teacher is using a MacBook, 2 MacBooks. So there maybe is a little leaning towards Apple, but they say very clearly this will work on your Windows machine, your MacBook, your Chromebook. They understand that at least freshmen and incoming freshmen, even in the computer science world, are going to be carrying a variety of tools. There's no dominant tool at Harvard.
It's
anyway,
it's really immature to have a real alliance towards one platform or preference is fine.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is why Intel's push about the M1 chip is horrible. They're putting one over on you. They're pulling a Badger game on you by telling you it's as good as a laptop. Like, oh God, is this 1994 again? It's like
actually it is because they have Justin Long in them. So I thought that was very weird. That remember Apple at its last event had John Hodgman, the PC from the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads. They had him as a PC, but at least they were paying for him. Intel has hired, and I'll play one of these for you. Justin Long.
Don't show Alex because the compositing is so bad it's going to hurt him.
Really? Is it that bad? Here we go.
Some of them they have the screens on top of the guy's hands.
Let me wait a minute. I got to get my sound to come out of the right hole. Hold on a second. That's the only problem with Linux. Sometimes you have to tell it what to do. Here we go. This is Justin Long.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on. Okay.
So, first of all, I hate you now, Justin. I just want you to know you've gone over to the other side and you
remember him. That's good.
You are now an enemy.
I hate him for a different reason because he's definitely been like using moisturizer because he doesn't look like he
looks the same freaking age.
Yes.
Well, when you're young, aging doesn't happen quite as quickly.
PC. Oh, cool. This whole thing's a touchscreen. And there's another one, too. Wow. All right. And now for Mac. Let's see. Oh, you've got a little bar here. A little baby one.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, where's the mute button?
Here's what I found on how to cook mutton.
Oh, no, I don't want to cook mutton. What even is that?
That's, by the way, the best part of the whole series.
Yeah, that's... we don't have much to say against any of those points.
He accidentally, because touch bar hits it, and Siri launches, and then it says, here's how to cook mutton. So that's kind of my experience with the touch bar as well, I might add.
I will admit that is my experience of the touch. Mostly my experience is how do I turn all this off? How do I get this to stop? Yeah. You know, like just because I'm constantly. I think that the biggest problem with the touch bar is that it's constantly changing what it's doing, and you're constantly accidentally hitting it. So
we had we had 2 Intel guys on Windows Weekly last week because it's Windows Weekly, and I asked him, well, and I think maybe Paul asked him, what's the reaction to the M1? And they actually said exactly the right words, which is, we're taking this as a challenge, and it invigorates us because of competition. But
Can't they just be honest and say it has 0 market share and we're not even thinking about it?
Yeah, no, they probably are thinking about it because I don't know how long it'll have 0 market share. Certainly, there are Windows people who look at the battery life and the cool operation and the speed of the M1 and go, gee, that'd be nice to have.
Well, I mean, the hard part is just the perception. I don't think that Intel's problem is really even, Apple as much as it's just perception of them getting knocked down.
Right.
Because and if they keep on getting whacked,
AMD did that.
and
AMD's done it too.
But
so now it's 2 blows.
But I think that, and really showing that they can't, I think Intel tried to live for as long as they could on the fact that they had a better chip. AMD was cheaper. Yeah. They had a better one. All things equal, if they lose all aspects of that, which they've lost most of already, If they lose all aspects of it, it really has a value proposition problem for them, in down the road, and not just in the Apple market. They're not. I don't think the Apple market means anything to them. As much as the perception that the M1 is pulling away and they can't figure out a way to do it. And the problem that they have is that how do you do that? Like, how do you fix the problem when you need to own the operating system and you need to have a singular development platform, and you need to be able to make the hardware that it goes into. You need to make all those things, and there's only one company in the world that does that.
So bad.
But this is why
it's not just bad.
This is why these are good ads. They're smart ads, because you're right. So they double down on the one thing Intel has going for them, the PC industry has, which is variety. So
but that's not Intel specific. Those are Windows and vendor differentiation.
I agree, but they're
a commodity in that equation.
I agree. They're running on Intel, but the point is, I think, reasonable that if you can't say we're optimized because we own the whole stack as Apple can, you say, well, but there's a virtue in not owning the whole stack, which is variety. And it's really true. In the Windows world, there's variety. There's a lot of variety.
I think
it doesn't play
there
to
is
strengths.
But as the new chips come out, it's going to just the spread is going to get a lot further. That's the problem, and I think that
that's why they're doing this now. By the way,
why they have to get ahead of this is because it'll be really complicated a year from now. Again, none of us. I expected when Apple puts out these silly little chips, I'm going to buy a bunch of Intel machines so that I can stock up and deal with Apple like screwing this up for 2 or 3 years, and we immediately did a full stop on buying anything else with Intel when we saw what once I got a Mini immedially, tested it, and we're like, okay, we're not going to buy any more Intel machines, and
would you consider AMD?
Well, I mean, on our PC stuff, sure.
Is it a vote against Intel or a vote against x86?
I don't think the whole platform has any. I think it competes right now. I think by the time we get to a Mac Pro in 18 months,
it's really a vote for Apple Silicon, is what it is. Not a vote against. It's a vote for Apple Silicon.
Yeah, I just don't see. I guess I don't see how they fix the problem. It's not just that Apple's ahead. It's that I can't calculate a way that the PC manufacturers can. They can't. It will take them 10 years because it took Apple 10 years. It took Apple 10 years to get to this chip, and it's going to take them 10 years. And that 10 years requires them to all get along and all agree and all build a consortium.
You know who could
what are the
do
chances
it?
Of that?
In fact, the only company that could do it is Microsoft, because they at least own the software stack.
They'd have to buy up Intel
or make a deal with Qualcomm. I think more likely, and I think you'll see this, they're already working with Qualcomm. They'll make a deal with Qualcomm to do a custom Windows chip. Now, can Qualcomm?
But how long would that
doesn't
take?
have the advantages that Apple has either.
I agree.
I mean, so the thing is just to get
to
get to version 1, it will take them 4 or 5 years, and Apple is already running down the path. That's the.
Do you think that if they can get the process down? I mean, that's one of the problems Intel has. Is its process is still 14 nanometers, barely 10.
It's 6 years behind schedule. I think.
So if they get the process down, and if they can get the cores up, and if they can get the
It's because it's the integrated RAM.
Well, they can do that.
The architecture.
They can do that. You can do unified memory with an Intel chip
at that many gigs. I mean to build the whole thing, and then all the apps and the OS.
Per watt is hard for Intel.
AMD's they're doing it in unified memory architecture is not new. It's been done in the consoles for a couple of generations.
AMD is interesting, and they're doing it things too.
And they're doing it with x86 architectures. So there's nothing to stop them from doing unified memory. GPUs, that's interesting. Do Apple's GPUs compete with Nvidia ray tracing or AMD's top of the line?
Not right now.
Not yet.
Performance efficiency, but not in terms of overall power.
Yeah.
But as an integrated solution, I just think that they're going to have a hard time, and I don't think that they can. I don't think the performance can keep up. Like I think it's not there yet. I mean, but they're really fast right now, and that was the first little ones that they put out. And so now
they should be worried. I agree. Yeah,
I think everybody should be terrified on that side because because the thing is that once Apple gets out ahead, it's not like an upstart who came out with this really fast computer that you can buy or you can compete with scale or whatever.
Right.
Apple is bigger than all of them, and now it's running faster and is ahead. If all that math is very scary.
On the other hand, Alex, and I'll be a little devil's advocate because I've been arguing your position for a long time in Windows Weekly. On the other hand, the response to that is, but Intel chips are more than fast enough for what people do. I mean, it's not like you're gaining a lot of overhead that suddenly people are going to find, maybe they will, new ways to use all this overhead.
Not the speed.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Intel, and this is really the point that Paul Thurrott makes again and again, it still satisfies people. It's still getting the job done. It's still going to be the mass market computing platform.
I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But the problem is that when you start losing the opinion of everyone,
certain
that is people. Yeah, but publicly, you're gonna, it's gonna be one of those things that they're really getting constantly bashed for being behind. It's a mountain that's really it's just hard to turn that.
I agree with you. The hard thing is that they don't control the stack, and controlling the stack is something that Apple can do, and uniquely.
Could you do the first 10 seconds of my second to last video, or the first 20 seconds of my second to last video? Because this was my favorite thing about the Intel commercials.
Renee Ritchie commenting on the
so when this says Intel attack,
this is the one where you go after the composition.
But not just that, it's because it works so well for Apple.
Okay, here we go. Renee Ritchie, the first few seconds of his video.
Wait, what is that? Hold up. Zoom, enhance, zoom, enhance, zoom in. Holy.
Wait a minute, are they running a Mac? That's Big Sur.
Keep watching.
This is all fake. Intel screwed up and photoshopped the bezels off the MacBook. That looks good. Sponsored by Brilliant.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to see that again. Are you kidding me? In that ad?
They rushed to do the compositing, and they composited all the bezels off the MacBook.
Oh, I see. It's a bezel-less. I see. So this is the Mac that he's showing, not a Windows machine.
Yes.
But there's no bezels. So maybe this is the new MacBook that they already have access to that we don't.
No, Ryan tweeted about it later. They said that they were rushed and they couldn't get the compositing right, because in one of the scenes also like the keyboard on the Asus is floating over his hands.
Oh man, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And the fact that they're rushing out, that they didn't have enough time, shows you panic.
Yeah.
Like it's, the fact that they didn't say, oh, we'll wait another week to get the compositing right, or we'll wait another whatever. Like, what are they?
Well,
why were they in a rush?
It's a little late. They should have done it right at the beginning before the benchmarks showing an M1 beating an i9 came out. It would have been a lot more credible.
But don't you think?
And again, I think that
a critical mistake. Like I wouldn't have done this at all. Like I would not have gone back to get a Mac. I would have gone back to Intel Inside and just shown like a bunch of really amazing Intel PCs.
Right.
Or don't even start the Apple or the AMD, and then at the end slow pan onto a Mac Pro and just say every powerful computer runs Intel, and then just drop the mic and walk away.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that you're putting weight on the Mac Pro, and when it stops, it's going to be
You've got a year.
And I think
they'll
the issue
all about it by then.
Again, I think that the issue is that it's not their competitor is AMD, not Apple. It's that the perception of size and scale is really and some kind of technical lead is really important to Intel, and they've lost it almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And if they publicly get whacked over and over again, it's not that Apple's going to overtake them; it's that AMD is going to overtake them. And they're not going to be able to get the perception back to where it was before. And I think that's the challenge.
Yeah. Well, you also have to think about this is you have to the diplomatic purpose of these commercials. They're not fighting Apple here. Realize that Mac OS is no longer the number 2 operating system in the world. It's now the number 3 operating system in the world. But I feel as though they need to have a way of telling all of the different manufacturers who build based on Intel, hey, look, we're fighting for you. We've committed our marketing budget towards helping you sell your laptops based on our chips, and so they kind of have no alternative but to try to chalk up the entire platform as opposed to a single CPU. And the best target is, of course, a Mac, because it's the other one that has a lot of marketing money behind it. So at least it shows that there is, and it shows to the people who are doing business with you that you are investing in the platform. You're investing in also the messaging behind the platform. Even though really a lot of the discussions that we're having about the M1 versus AMD versus Intel it really is a lot like when the 3 guys on Top Gear talk about the power plant inside these 3 different cars. Most people absolutely don't care about all these little differences. What they care about is I'm in the store or I'm on Amazon. I've got $730. I might be able to stretch that to $800. What can I get? And here are my needs. After that, it just doesn't matter to them what kind of silicon is under the hood.
It's true. It pains the hell out of me. I on the radio show and say stop buying Windows, but it doesn't convince anybody.
I mean, from a business perspective, it's the margins though are so small on the people who are passionate are the ones buying computers that have margins. Like the people who are not passionate are buying ones that have almost zero
Same
margin.
for phones.
And that just makes it really, really complicated to build business models around. It's just hard to innovate when you have nothing to.
Well, you make it up in
with.
volume. I mean, you have a small margin if you're HP or Intel, or Lenovo or Dell, but you sell a hell of a lot more computers than Apple does, and you make it up on margin. I mean, this past month there've been multiple 0 days. It's really been a nasty security environment for Windows. People call me all the time and say, I did the Windows update and my printer, there was a big flaw in the last Windows update. We had it. If you had printers from Kyocera or Ricoh or a number of laser printer models, Windows would blue screen when you tried to print. It's not that you couldn't print. The whole system would crash to its knees. I mean, this is a very fragile...
And this is an update that it forces you to do.
Yes, and it's a very...
That's the thing.
Yes, it was a security update. Microsoft's fixed it since, but this is a very kind of fragile ecosystem. And I always... Basically what I say on the radio show is, if you have an IT department, fine, and you need it for your business, fine. If you're willing to be your own IT department, fine. But most people just want something that works. The problem is... Right. The default is still Windows. It's like, well, everybody buys Windows. Windows is a PC. That's a computer, right? Oh, I'm not a Mac. Mac's for fancy people. It's expensive. I can't. It's not for me. And so I think that's the problem. It's a perception problem, and I don't think that's going to be overcome. In fact, I wonder if those ads are even aimed at consumers as much as they're aimed at the OEMs, saying, "See, see, just like you said, Andy, we really make great processors. OEMs, keep making your great computers."
I also wonder whether they use the actor to make sure that he doesn't end up, because now, of course, he's burned. From an Apple perspective,
can't do I'm a Mac anymore. Yeah. Maybe they saw Hodgman at the event and they said, "Oh, get me Justin Long, quick."
Well, I mean, you can't literally. It could have been. I expected Justin Long back with Hodgman.
Yeah, when
I saw Hodgman there, I was like, "Oh, I think that this is going to be Apple's just going to pummel them next year." Yeah,
they sure could have.
Yeah,
but Apple doesn't like to go back to their old ways, right? They want to do a new campaign.
That would have been a fun one.
I mean.
Although they've got a new chip.
No, what's really
they're doing a Think Different style campaign right now, aren't they? With all those famous people in black and white shots. So maybe they do.
It's really weird though, because there's very few people who are like, we all remember the I'm the Mac commercials. Most mainstream customers now don't. Like, a lot of people were asking who it was, and he comes out saying I'm a Justin, which is I mean, it's not a mainstream thing now. Kids are on TikTok these days. They're not watching old Apple commercials.
Yeah, you're right. We know what it was. No one else. Yeah.
And then it's called Justin Gets Real, but all the composites are badly done to the point that it looks fake. So the entire thing to me seems like they rushed it out. It was ill-conceived, ill-considered, ill-executed. And I want Intel back so badly. I want I want a competitive environment where AMD and Intel and Apple and Qualcomm are all, vying for our attention and our money. And this is just not a good Intel.
Yeah.
It's like making the execs happy. This is the ad you make to make your executives happy, not to improve.
I mean, somebody said, it feels like somebody just said, we have to respond. Like, we have to respond. We have to respond. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Like, somebody's got to do something right now. And then there was a whole bunch of people running around.
I bet, despite the fact that you're right, most people don't know who Justin Long is and didn't get the reference. I bet they were successful ads because the fundamental point they were making is true. There's a lot more variety in the PC ecosystem, period.
Yeah.
And that question is, Apple's getting sued now in a class action lawsuit because of their crappy butterfly keyboards. The touch bar. No, very few people love the touch bar. I think that they targeted reasonable things on the Apple side and showed the one big strength the PC side has, which is variety. So in that
the two things that hurt me as a marketer were, one, Coke never does Pepsi, never mentions Pepsi, never does a Pepsi challenge. It's not what a market leader does. And second, you always want to advertise your strengths, and every strength they advertised was the strength of Windows and PC vendors, nothing to do with Intel. So in one foul swoop, to make their executives feel better, they said, we are no longer the market leader, and we are also a commodity part. Thank you, good night. And it just broke my heart as a marketer.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like I said, I doubt it was to make them I doubt it was promoting Intel. I do think it was, again, part of the discussions that you have when you have these contracts is to say, not only are we going to give you engineering, not only are we give you our technology, but we have a marketing budget that will help you promote how well your hardware is going to be because it uses our products inside it. So I don't at the level of Intel, I don't think that they're quite that thin-skinned. But I do agree that this was pretty misguided, and that they could have done a lot more to promote the Intel platform devices to consumers than what they did right now. I agree that I will give them kudos for saying, thank you, Apple, for investing tens of $20 million in creating an advertising brand or an advertising sort of trade dress that we could easily hook onto 10 years later. However, it really is. It's what happens when you're locked in a conference room for years and years and years, and you don't spend a lot of time, again, hanging out at coffee shops near college campuses. You don't spend a whole lot of time hanging out at public libraries and seeing how your technology helps people that are actually on the ground there, because they had a lot more to do, a lot more to say.
They're also, I might say, fighting a battle in a war that's been over for a while, because it's really the mobile arena. If you what you're talking about is young people, they're not buying PCs or Macs. They're might be buying iPads. Really, they're buying phones, and they're most of their computing.
Well, you can't TikTok on a PC, Leo. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But this means that Apple's canceling that Mac Pro update, doesn't it? Like, there's no way they're going to roll out a new Intel chip after those commercials, right?
Oh.
I doubt that they were going to do anyway. I mean, I think
as far as I know, they were going to do one last update to the Mac Pro before it went M1.
Yeah,
I don't know if they will now.
Yeah,
but I think that I don't know of anybody that, I mean, I know there's nobody I know that would buy one now. Once they saw the M1, no one's going to want to upgrade. No one's going to want to touch their Mac Pro. I mean, and I'm sure that it was worth whoever bought it. It's worth the money they put into it. If they didn't amortize it over 2 years, they shouldn't have bought it, right? So it's not. So they got a good value out of it. But I think that no one's going to invest after they saw the M1. Everyone knows that an whatever it is, M2, 3, 4, 1X, 1Z, whatever that ends up being in the Mac Pro is going to be so fast and so big that whatever comes out as the new one, that no one wants to invest now.
They leaked. There was Big Navi and the Intel stuff in some boot report that somebody found in the operating system. But I'm guessing that's not happening.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's interesting. Huh? Let's take a little break. Renee Ritchie, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, all here. The team is assembled for Mac Break Weekly. Our show today brought to you, quite literally, by CacheFly. When you download one of our shows, you're getting it from our content delivery network, CacheFly. They've been innovating content delivery since 1999, and we've been using them, I think since 2009, for a long time. They really solved a big problem we had, which is, how do you get podcasts, especially now that once we started doing video podcasts, large files to customers without delay, without error. Customers won't know that, that we're doing CacheFly, but what you don't want them to do is say, hey, it took a long time to get that, or I didn't get the file and all of that. CacheFly has really saved our bacon for more than 10 years. Thank you, CacheFly. They now, if you're streaming, they offer something really interesting. They call it ultra low latency streaming. And it's not the WebRTC solution that's let you down in the past. This is less than 1 second of latency. You could play it anywhere. They have a fabulous HTML5 player that easily supports whatever platform you want. There's an SDK available if you want to make a mobile app of your own. Whether you need your player to run on websites, applications, mobile devices, or another platform, they've got you covered. Of course, CacheFly is global. They've got over 50 points of presence all over the world. It's the fastest CDN for global throughput. Their low latency network means your video streams will be coming in quickly no matter where your viewers are, no matter what continent there are. And it's infinitely scalable. CacheFly's ultra-low latency video platform can deliver video to more than 1 million users concurrently at the same time and ingest thousands of synchronous streams. In fact, speaking of ingest, their platform is designed for transmuxing thousands of streams simultaneously with live failover. They can ingest RTMP, RTMP-AS, SRT, and more to deliver ultra-low latency SLDP and HLS streams at the same time. Plus, CacheFly works with you. They'll build a custom-built solution based on your unique needs, all built on top of their very reliable, robust global network with ingest and delivery wherever you need it. And I can vouch for the support 24/7, 365 days a year. Priority support. They're always there when you need them. 1 million streams at the same time. 5 times faster than other CDNs. And it's the world's most reliable CDN backed by a 100% SLA. I can vouch for that too. In 10 years, we've never, ever lost a download. I love that. CashFly is helping others in need. They've partnered with World Central Kitchen, helping to serve 300,000 warm meals. They've donated over $50,000. They also pioneered, by the way, the first Anycast CDN infrastructure back in 2002. Their best hop technology automatically finds the fastest route to and from customer origin across their global network of POPs for maximum performance and reliability. We love CashFly. You will too. And if right now you're struggling with your current CDN or you think you need a CDN, and believe me, you do, you should go to CashFly, twit.cashfly.com, and get a complimentary analysis of your current bill, your usage trends. See if you're overpaying 20% or more for your CDN, or just find out what a CDN can do for you, especially if you want low latency, ultra low latency streaming. Twit.cashfly.com, twit.cashfly.com. Thank you, CashFly. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you again, CashFly. twit.cashfly.com. Not been a great week for Apple in terms of court orders, but I have to say it feels like patent trolls to me, and I think Apple kind of even insinuated this. Another article in Marshall, Texas, another trial in Marshall, Texas. Jury says Apple has to pay $308.5 million to Personalized Media Communications, saying that Apple infringed their patent on digital rights management. Apple insinuated by saying, quote, cases like this brought by companies that don't make or sell any products stifle innovation and ultimately harm consumers. It was disappointed by the jury verdict and will appeal. It's been going on for five years now.
I think at some point it would be great if the Supreme Court just decided we're just going to overturn everything that comes out of that county. We're just going to let you know. They should just say, hey, just so you know, anything that comes out of that county, we're not going to support, and that would end this. Like, it would literally end it overnight if Roberts got up there and just said, this has gone far enough, and you can't just keep filing into one county, and we're just letting you know once it gets here, we're going to throw it out.
They also sued Google and YouTube. Actually lost. They sued Netflix. That case is pending, but it's in New York. Mm-hmm. By the way, that was going to be our strategy if we got sued when there was a patent troll over podcasting, is a change of venue out of West Texas or East Texas, because that's the worst place you could be. The lawsuit, oddly, Apple challenged the validity of the patent back in 2015 at the Patent Trial and Appeal Board and won. The patent was invalidated, and then last year a U.S. appeals court overturned that decision.
Which one?
Some have expired, and they've been forced to pay on patents that were exhausted and expired. It's really interesting law, if you can call it that.
Eastern District of Texas. Thank you very much. I don't even have to. I didn't look at the patents. I don't have to look at them.
Literally, I just see Eastern District of Texas, and I just immediately know it's BS.
You just know.
Like this is just,
Yeah. Apple fine in Brazil, not a lot, $2 million, big deal, for not putting a charger in the box with the iPhone. Oops. This actually wasn't by the country of Brazil. It was by the state of São Paulo. So also charged for allegedly misleading customers, maintaining unfair contracts, and not repairing products under warranty. But not the hugest fine ever. I don't know what Apple's can appeal if they want to, but there's no word about whether they will. And by the way, that's not a court order. That's an order from the Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency, so they could actually ask to go to court on that. So
Yeah, it just goes to show how difficult it is to make even these simple changes, because every country and even municipalities within those countries have different laws. We're already seeing all the chaos that California is causing, not negative chaos, should I say, but the fact that the lack of a federal laws about digital content, federal laws about privacy, about net neutrality has forced individual territories to simply say, okay, if our government is not going to do it, then our local government is going to do it. And now you make a simple change, like we decided to make our boxes gray instead of white, and suddenly there is a place that's saying, well, because you're using a dye instead of a bleach, your consumer packaging no longer qualifies for our recycling initiative, and now you've got this other problem on your hands.
Yeah, well, I think there's potentially case to be made that I mean, it was fine when we started doing this in California, but I think that as states get more and more picky, there's going to be some, interstate trade issues with the Constitution, that are going to show up. That's going to become the argument, and that's going to become something that probably could invalidate a lot of these rules.
Yeah, but it is going to give consumers a lot of leverage, a lot of bargaining power against big companies like Apple and Google, because there are very few things that they're scared of. One of them is having to comply with 50 different slightly overlapping but if they are forced to, when it comes to time to create a federal law, if they are now saying, well, look, we can't, Wisconsin wants this, New Hampshire wants this, we can't simply wave our hand and say, no, you're not getting that, because we don't want them to say, okay, great, well then we'll create our own law, or we're gonna use our own lobbying to make sure that we get kind of what we want. It means that they do have to, they can no longer have a, hey, we are complying, and if you don't think we are, well, fine us. We'll just write you a check and we'll move on.
The witness list is in for the Apple versus Epic mega battle in the arena.
Tim Apple versus Tim Epic.
Tim Apple versus Tim Epic. I guess Apple will be calling Tim Cook. It's weird. I guess you can stipulate how long they'll be there. Tim Cook will be examined for 1 hour with a 1 hour cross-examination. Craig Federighi will testify for 2 hours with a 1 hour cross-examination.
Tim Cook can say good morning for an hour and be done.
Yeah.
He'll just...
Phil Schiller will test. Poor Phil's taking the brunt. He'll be testifying for 10 hours.
He runs App Store.
Yeah, all of them will be doing it in person. Also, the App Store Vice President Matt Fisher, head of fraud engineering algorithms and risk. That's a good title. I'm the head of fraud engineering algorithms and risk. Eric Friedman. Bunch of other people. Epic's witnesses, of course, include Tim Epic and other Epic employees. They'll also bring in third-party executives from Facebook, Microsoft, Nvidia. Eddie Q is on the Epic list. Former iOS software chief Scott Forstall. I guess they got his phone number. They found his phone number.
I thought they said they had trouble finding him.
They slid into his DMs.
They slid into his DMs. No, they did.
They found him.
Epic. Well, he's on the witness list.
He's on the witness list, but I think they haven't. In that article, I think they said they hadn't found him.
Yeah, this was back in February. I don't know if they found.
It's really telling that so much of their stuff is hinged on letters between Steve Jobs and his executives, which is like over a decade now. It's so fascinating to me.
Well, the other thing is like, why do you write those letters? Like as a lawyer's son, you're like, why would you do that?
Like, why would you have it?
I know. It's just.
But I think that's also telling that you want to pull correspondence from a name that's going to have a big effect on a grand jury, but also from a time when this is before all of this malarkey was happening. And if you have someone who was known to be very, very loose-lipped during what he thought was going to be always private correspondence, oh boy. That's where they say things like, we want to kill them because I just hate them, and I know it's unfair, but I think they should die. That means we're going to kill them. Like, okay, great. That'll put a couple of zeros on the settlement check. Wonderful.
This was an interesting reveal from Mark Gurman. The HomePod Mini has an unused humidity and temperature sensor in it.
It's got a secret. Mm-hmm. Secret.
It's the way it's placed. It's not for internal temperature or humidity. It's positioned by the power cord so that it can sense the room's temperature and humidity. What? Why? Why would you put that in?
Why would you possibly want to supply HomeKit the temperature of a room and let you control your AC?
I know, but the thing is, like, if you have an AC system, you already have a temperature sensor that's controlling the AC. It's not as though this thing is just randomly. You don't turn your AC to 8,
but you wouldn't need
AC to 68.
You just wouldn't need it. You wouldn't need a Nest to do it. I mean,
well, and I have
you
to
have a
point out
Honeywell,
that
but the Honeywells are horrible. I have one in my house. Like it's
at
just
least
horrible.
for my antiquated heating and cooling system, the thermostat's in the hall, so the bedroom is never adequately heated or cooled.
Okay.
So having additional sensors, because I did in fact scatter AirPod Minis all over the damn house. It is
a lot. It's a lot easier to drop an air, given that it does other things. It's a lot easier to drop it than another thermostat. You know, and so and a centralized location, a centralized system, knowing what the temperature is all over the house could be super useful.
Yeah, maybe. There's also rumors that Apple, and there's even some evidence that Apple wants to make a HomePod with a screen. There's code.
I would much rather just have a dock. Like, just make a new HomePod that's halfway between the old one and the Mini that has a U1 chip in it, so it can give Leo that follow me around the house with my music thing that he's always wanted. Give me that automatic spatial audio setup I've always wanted, and then build a little dock into it so I can pop my iPad into it in the room, in the kitchen, in the living room, for the grandparents, for all of that. And then Apple gets what they want, which is to sell multiple devices, and I get what I want, which is just like my mom can do easy video conferencing with me.
I think there's a big market, too, of people who will maybe even own or at least considered Google's assistant devices with a screen or the Facebook portal or the Echo Show, and have decided they don't want to give all of that information to Amazon, Facebook, or Google. Here comes Apple with a similar product. I think that might be an untapped market.
Even without the baggage, the portal is done really well.
Oh, honestly.
Really well.
We all care, but normal people go, what are you worried about? Right. And if you have a Facebook account, and 3.5 billion people do, clearly you don't care, because there you go.
If you have the app on, if you have your app, I will go one further. That if you have the app on your phone, that's the line of demarcation between, like, okay, I will occasionally log into Facebook and on the web and check to see like what my aunts and uncles are and cousins are doing. However, I am not putting an app on my phone with access to all those sensors. But the number of people who just, okay, we're good. No, why not?
Or just like put them in their house with all the virtual reality stuff now, where they basically say, we're just going to take all the data from your house. It's cool. Okay, great.
Well, and the thing is that the number one reason for me not to put it on my phone now, because I don't have it on my phone, is the battery life. It's like twice. You like double your battery life by just taking Facebook off your. That's when I worried. I was like, what are they doing if they take? Like, as soon as you take it off the phone, it's immediately. Yeah.
I deleted Messenger, and now every time I open Instagram, it's like, do you want to receive Facebook Messenger things here? And then I go to my email, and they're like, you missed all these notifications.
You have to scrape off
text me and say, you're missing your Facebook material.
Alerts. You have to get rid of all of it. You just got to get rid of all of it.
They're following me everywhere, Leo. They're
no Instagram
texting
for
me
you.
Now.
See, you've got a problem because you're a YouTube guy. You've got an influencer, so you've got to have TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of that.
I'm going to outsource to a vault that just seals all the stuff inside and posts video excerpts for me.
I don't care. I don't.
I think you just attach it. Just sign in and attach it to a monkey and set him free.
Let him run away.
The algorithm will be like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Fly free.
Yeah. This person likes a lot of bananas.
There was very, very briefly. There's an article on MIT Technology Review that's worth looking at about like a concentrated and planned movement to poison data sets being collected by social media companies.
Father Robert was a leader in that field. He started doing that years ago. Yeah. And I don't want to poison it. And I'll be honest, I also don't care if advertisers have information about me. They have lots of avenues for that anyway. It's not a big deal to me.
I consciously decided you had to be in or out years ago. Because you're just either
you don't have
in
a
the world
choice,
or you're not.
And it's a lot of work to be out. You got to find a monkey to put your phone on for one thing.
Exactly. And I was really serious about it, 30 years ago. You
gave up too.
I had some meetings and realized how deep the water was, and just decided it wasn't worth it.
Once you understand,
once you understand how deep the thing was, I was like,
and honestly. I also think the harms aren't. It's like, okay, advertisers know everything there's to know about me. Who cares? Why should I? What do I care about that? I understand the principle, but it's a principle.
But then they
thing.
sell it to Cambridge Analytica, so it's not
exactly.
Who cares? If I'm not on Facebook, I'm not seeing the ads.
I think it's less about people. It's less about folks like us, and it's more folks that are probably a little bit more impressionable.
Yeah, but then
it's also us because they run psyops on us. Like they'll tell us who to vote for and what TV thing they try doing.
Nobody's telling me who to vote for. I don't care about that.
No, but it's hard to see that because they do things where they adjust your feed to make you sad, and they can reproduce the results. We can control people by showing that is incredibly terrifying.
Yeah.
But one of my issues is simply the fact that what if I try to get a home loan, or what if I'm applying for an apartment, or if I'm applying for a job, and the company that is processing these applications is relying on one of these absolutely junk science, mystical hoodoo doo-doo services that says, because of we have with using the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence, we have access to social media and other metrics that will tell you precisely whether this person is trustworthy or the scum of the earth. And it's based on what they're buying data that they're from marketers. They're applying algorithms that have not been proven, that are absolutely not public knowledge and can't be tested, and they're making life-changing decisions that people will never know. How come I've never gotten a call back on a certain job on jobs? And it's because they're all 20% of the industry is using this one service, and this one service believes that because you both you visit a lot of dirt bike sites, and you also live in this one. You also visited this one public park several times, that you are a deadbeat. It's like, no, thank you.
So I don't have a Facebook, Instagram, any of that stuff, obviously on my phone for sure, but just in general, the company does because they've decided. It's not my choice. They've decided to market, but I don't want to do that, and I'm not on Twitter either. But it's not because I'm worried about being tracked. I'm being tracked in a variety of ways. Andy, they look at your sideburns and say, we're not going to give you any money. There's all sorts of things.
Well, at least
you don't have any
based
control.
on truth.
You don't have any control over. I just don't want to give him any money. I just don't want Mark Zuckerberg to get a penny of my money. That's all. Yeah. So it's not the information I don't want him to have. It's the money I don't want him to have.
I just don't like the time suck. Like I realized that when I took the Facebook off my phone, it meant that I just didn't look at it. And I look at it, I still check it every day. Like, oh, what messages are coming? Like there's people. You have to go and check your mail, but I don't do it on my phone, and it just freed up a lot of time that I was spending on things that I didn't need to spend time on. Like my life has not been negatively impacted by checking Facebook every day. And I don't really dig through the timeline very much. And
I have my own addictions. I play Animal Crossing every single day.
I play Kingdom Rush is my addiction.
Yeah. So it's not,
but that's pretty much it.
But we get to choose our addictions, right?
Yeah.
Now Microsoft is buying Discord, and we're going to have no safe harbor.
Yeah, I don't buy that story. We've seen anytime anything's for sale, Microsoft's going to buy it. They were going to buy Pinterest too. Remember that? I'm not sure I buy that.
It's an Electron app, so it fits their portfolio, Leo.
That's true. That's true. Somebody will buy it, or they'll do an IPO. They want to cash in, is what the message is. We want our money.
I prefer more choice in my networks. I don't need everything to be owned by everybody, by the same three companies.
No, I completely agree with you. But you know what? There's other choices out there. There's open source Discords out there that are very good, like Matrix and Element.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with things that are based on social networks. It's like how many? There are alternatives to Discord, but if everybody is on Discord, they're saying, "Oh, great! We can invite you to our Discord. We can invite you. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We can invite you to our Slacks. Like, okay, but hey, what if we all go off of Slack and onto this open source alternative that isn't controlled by a certain company? Well, there are 800 of us. We'll talk to some of them. No, that's not going to happen. It's the reason why I'm on Facebook, because I can't get my family to go, I will create a server that's just for us, that we control, that can do a million things you can't do.
Easy.
And it's and my response will be, okay, if you could my community groups page on Facebook, they just don't care. They're not interested.
They don't care. That's exactly right. All you have to do is look at the numbers. 3.5 billion users. No one cares. just the tech pundits. That's the only people who care. So Gurman, in that mini censor story, mentioned in one line, I love how Gurman, like sometimes he buries the lead. Like in one line says, yeah, they're working on cameras and screen technology.
Well, I mean, it makes sense to be able to set something down and talk to folks. I think that it and the screens can provide a lot. I mean, we have the Amazon the original one with the screen. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. Echo
Show.
And number one use for it is the clock. like we look over and there's a clock there.
Oh yeah,
and you go, because that's the Alex, one place where we know that it's there.
The number one way I use voice assistants is to set timers for cooking.
My number one use from my Apple Watch is timers.
Yeah,
by a long shot.
The fact that we use stuff for trivial purposes doesn't make it less desirable.
Is trivial.
No, but
those
it
are
is
the important things.
That's important.
But I think there's a lot of opportunity in all of these things. I don't think anyone's really hit it yet, but I think that there's, we started doing. I don't think Apple will do this. I think it's more of an Amazon thing. But we did this kind of collaborative cooking over the weekend, and what's interesting about it is that it's just the very beginning. You see like this tiny little seed of lots of people being able to be in their kitchen cooking together, learning how to do it from somebody who knows what they're doing. And for Amazon, it's much more clean because you just say, okay, if you want to join this thing, you can, Whole Foods will deliver all the food for you to go forward. And you can just follow along with Thomas Keller or whatever, and so I think that, but I think that there's a lot of interaction that whether it's, thousands of people or just you and an extended family being able to have something in the kitchen and I think the advantage that Apple has with screens and interaction is of their stance on privacy. And I think that's going to be the thing that you feel like you can do that. I think a lot of us don't do that naturally with other devices because you just feel like you're being watched all the time.
Yeah, well, Apple could do a lot of really great things with that kind of a device. The thing that's holding them back is that Siri has always been about text, whether it's spoken text or typed text, and I think that's the core of what it kind of wants to do all the time. Whereas Google, I have more experience with Google's smart screens. They really try to make it. If it's on a smart screen, they will give you an entire visual experience towards the things you're asking it to do and the content you're asking it to display. So if Apple were to, but Apple is really good at that. If they were to create a visual version of Shlomo, sorry about saying the S word before, sorry if I activated your devices, but if they were to create a really, really good visual, like a 4x6 experience where it will give you a really, really wonderful, delicious experience every time you ask for stuff, even if maybe that's the key to going beyond setting timers and setting simple reminders, because there are things that I do on my older Google Smart Screen that I don't do on the desktop, that I don't do on my phone, because I know I'm going to get like more of a comprehensive panel, more of a comprehensive result, because it'll give me the results spoken, but it will also give me information and controls around the thing that I've asked for that kind of make it into a valuable experience. I did pre-order the second generation Nest Home, which will be coming about next week, and part of it is that the second generation became a very, very intriguing device as something to put on my nightstand, given how many things that are kind of going through my mind in the last half hour, 45 minutes before I go to sleep, and in the first half hour, 45 minutes after I wake up. That became an interesting prospect for me, at least worth me putting $99 into seeing how much it would work out. Apple could do something much, much better than that.
Apple also apparently in iOS 14.5 in the actually TV OS 14.5 beta code has added FaceTime and iMessage frameworks.
Yeah.
Along with the new AVF capture framework for capturing.
Interesting.
So would that, if they're doing that, it means it would be part of a new Apple TV. But so Renee, describe to me an Apple TV that would incorporate FaceTime, iMessage, and AVF capture.
So it's super interesting because those are amongst like the stickiest of Apple services. Those are the things that they've become almost nouns. Like you FaceTime something the way someone like the way you Google something. Physically, how they implement it to me is going to be curious. Like, is it going to be a next generation eyesight camera that you mount on your television? Is it going to be incorporated into the Apple TV box? Because not everybody puts their Apple TV box in a place where it would actually camera them.
No,
is it going
mine's
to rely on
underneath.
third-party
In fact,
accessories?
All it would see is up my skirt if I put it. It's down below.
Or some people would be the
cabinet.
server closet. So
Yeah.
I like it. Is it going to use like a remote camera? Like, is it going to use your iPhone's camera or something and give you a family experience? What Apple is doing is seldom as interesting to me as how they're doing it. And this is the kind of stuff I love, just like figuring out an implementation for this.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean,
I always thought that they were going to eventually they had a USB connection for a lot of the older Apple TVs, and I always figured eventually they're just going to put a webcam in there so that people could
it's
interact.
It's still there.
It's
just hidden underneath the.
It's a service
It's
port,
hidden behind
though, right?
the Ethernet jack now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would presume this is for a new Apple TV. This is not something you're going to do on the old Apple TVs.
Or that small speaker. If that small speaker runs tvOS rather than
does it?
More useful.
What OS does
Yeah, it
it?
does.
If it did.
It does.
It runs Audio OS, but it's based on tvOS.
So maybe those frameworks aren't intended for an Apple TV, but for a new HomePod Mini with a screen and a camera.
HomePod Show.
I have to say, I've done Google Duo video calls with my Google Home. I've done portal calls with a portal, and it's actually it makes a lot of sense. I used to have my mom. You were talking about, Alex, about cooking with your Echo Show. I used to have my mom on the Echo Show in the kitchen while I was cooking. We would talk. I'd be making her sauce, and she loved it. It was like she was sitting in the kitchen. So I could really, that is a real good use case. I like those devices a lot.
Yeah, I really wish that when I 10 years ago, I had like both parents in nursing care and hospitals, and boy, the ability, that'd be the easiest money to spend to simply say, I'm going to put one of these different camera devices in each one so that not just for those of us who could visit like every day or every other day, but friends that could simply video drop in once a week or once every couple of weeks. That is one of those uses of technology that makes me smile and makes me optimistic.
Yes,
because that is a problem without a solution. Loneliness when you are having health problems, particularly the kinds that you're never going to get away from, that make it really, really difficult. Used to be easy to get in the car and drive 90 minutes to visit a friend of yours, and now that's not going to happen. So yeah, that's such a beautiful, beautiful use of technology. That is why I hope that Apple does something like this, because they could make a very, very special version of this. That would be you buy it for your mom or your dad or your aunt, your uncle for Christmas. They plug it in and it just works, and suddenly you're talking to them like a couple times a week casually, instead of let's set up an hour in which we're going to have this big sort of event where we get to talk to each other.
Although, I mean, Apple already has that product. It's an iPhone and an iPad.
It is, but there's something like, if you look at the tech, like the portal is pretty good at the tracking process that really does make it a little bit more fluid, where it's taking a 4K image.
Have you seen the new Amazon one? It's a screen on a pivot, and it follows you around.
And then it tells you if you need to order more toilet paper as it's following you, which is really creepy.
It scans your house in the middle of the night. But you're right. I mean, that ability to follow, the Google does that too, where because it's got such a high-res camera, if you move, it can refocus without moving. But now the Echo is going to move.
It moves
wild.
just like that.
I bought 2 portals because I was going to send Mom one, but then I realized I don't have a Facebook account, so it's not much good to me.
Did you think it was a Valve thing, Leo? Were you buying it based on Valve?
Yeah, I thought, I could put holes in the
Aperture
wall.
Science?
Yeah. No, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess it was for review more than anything else. But
I remember there was a person I knew who worked on it, and they released it round about the time of Cambridge Analytica, and he's like, I feel like it's a really great product that I worked on, but I know none of you are going to buy it now. And
Exactly.
I just felt really bad.
Exactly. Facebook just kind of screwed the pooch, and it's why I don't have an Oculus. I think the Oculus Quest is really, they're inexpensive one. It's fantastic, but I don't have a Facebook.
I wouldn't buy the second one because it requires a login. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any money going into Mark's pocket. All right, let's take a little break and put some money in my pocket. That was creepy. That was really creepy. Sorry about that. We're putting money in Alex's pocket, okay? And Renee's and
we appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. And a little bit in mine, too. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. Actually, these guys are good guys. I try to pick advertisers that I really can get behind, and I love these guys. Since they started Tim Broom and Don Pizzette were trainers at doing, IT training in a classroom, that's kind of the traditional style. This training, by the way, is really important if you want to get a job in IT. You could know everything. You could be sitting listening to this show going, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But getting a job is another matter entirely. You've got to show you have the skills. And generally, that first IT job, they want you to have certificates. Maybe one of the CompTIA certificates, A+, or Security Plus or Network Plus, maybe a CCNA for a Cisco certificate or MCSE for Microsoft. They want to know you've got those skills, and that's what Don and Tim were doing, but they were doing it in a classroom. They came to an NAB panel I was on with Adam Carolla, a bunch of other people about streaming, and they said, wait a minute, they got the idea. We could do the same thing we do in classrooms, but better on the internet. People, everybody, everywhere could watch it. They created IT Pro TV. That was back in 2013. Now they've just kind of gone, it's amazing. I'm so jealous. We went out to Gainesville a couple of years ago to see their brand new facility. It's gorgeous. 7 studios operating all day, Monday through Friday, because there's always more content to create. New versions, new questions on the exams, new software coming out, new things to teach people. If you want to learn IT, there is no better place than IT Pro TV. With 7 studios, fun and entertaining edutainers, IT Pro TV is just really the best online IT training platform. One of the big areas right now, cybersecurity. There are literally more than 1 million jobs unfilled right now in desktop and network security. Businesses need not only the people on the ground, but they need strong IT leadership. So that, that's one of the things. You get these great people on the ground and they keep complaining that the leadership doesn't understand what's going on. If you want to strengthen your IT leadership, this is how you could do it. The IT Pro TV business platform, it's been developed from the ground up to support online IT training for both IT leaders and employees. It's part of the ACI learning portfolio of audit, cyber, and IT learning solutions for consumers and enterprises. 5,800 hours of engaging video training online and on demand, courses on malware detection, crypto, pen testing, end user security awareness, and a lot more. IT Pro TV is the official video training partner for CompTIA, so you're in the right place for getting those certs. And this month, March, is Cisco month at IT Pro TV. 12 Cisco courses being featured: CCNA, CCNP, CCT, Encore, SLED, and RC. Check out their webinar with Cisco Award winner David Bombal. It's called Get Hands-On with Cisco. They did it earlier this month, but you can see it now on demand at itpro.tv/webinars. That's free. So's the podcast that Don Pizzette does, TechNado, featuring industry guests and IT news recaps for a deeper dive into the IT realm. We love IT Pro TV, and they love their community. They actually have done 30-plus COVID-impacted, or helped 30-plus COVID-impacted educational institutions with free training. So thank you, IT Pro TV. 225,000 members. They have grown like crazy since we first met back in 2013. It's the place to go to get that IT training, both as an IT professional, somebody wanting to get an IT, or IT leader. Go to itpro.tv/MacBreak. If you want a consumer subscription, I can get you a great deal. I know people. 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription, forever if you stay active. Use the offer code MacBreak30. MacBreak30 at itpro.tv/MacBreak. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. IT Pro TV. We love these guys. And I love you guys. Don't want you to feel left out. There's lots more rumors. There's patents. I don't want to get too much of the rumors. Ming-Chi Kuo talking about next year an Apple headset with eye tracking, iris recognition. Yeah, fine. We'll talk about it.
He's just pandering to Alex at this point.
Yeah. I thought this was a funny
Iris
story.
scanning.
Since the iPhone 12 mini didn't sell great, according to supply chain sources, Apple is going to have to pay Samsung because the screens come from Samsung and they bought fewer than the agreed on number. The penalty clause will be $638 million. Is that right?
Yep.
Wow. Or is it $638? It's hard to tell.
I think it depends.
It looks like a typo.
It depends on how many other screens they buy. Like if they overpurchase
exactly.
on other ones, it might mitigate the underpurchase.
What happened was Apple said to Samsung, okay, but Samsung Display, you got to build a factory exclusively making screens for the iPhone. And we're going to need 100 million of them. So the contract didn't materialize. But as Samsung said smartly, wisely, if we're going to build a factory, there's going to be a penalty clause if you don't buy that much. So
that's kind of amazing because you have to imagine that at some point, but we'll sign whatever you want. Like, oh God, we wish we had the problem where we weren't selling as many as we would like, because it would really make, it's kind of a breath of a splash of cold water in a lot of people's faces, myself included, because how many times have we discussed how a smaller size phone is a gap in the market, and that there's a whole bunch of seems to be a whole bunch of people that would benefit from having smaller sized phones, and then thinking, oh wow, that's great that Apple is making a really, really high quality small phone, but oh goodness, you don't get any clearer of an indication that people just don't want an iPhone like that than the fact that, again, if they have to pay off a contract because they didn't buy nearly as many as they thought they would, I guess that means that you're not going to be looking forward to a second generation piece of hardware, are you?
Yeah.
I think they're committed to the second generation one, but it's the third one I think now is super in doubt.
Do you think Apple will make a mini this year? iPhone 13?
I think there's supposedly they do those. They work several years out, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage.
That's weird. I mean, the design work is a sunk cost, but you have to imagine that they're just gonna. You have to imagine that at least with this. Well, I'm sorry. I'm thinking as I'm talking, which is not something that works out well for me. But yeah, it's.
Oh, go ahead. Why should you be any different for the rest of us?
Yeah, I'm not thinking at all, Andy. So
anything is better than dead air. No, I was saying you have to imagine. I find it interesting to imagine what happens when you're designing the second generation of this hardware and fully anticipating that the first generation will be a success, and you get to use all the ideas that you weren't able to put into the first one, and now the brief comes down that we're committed to making a second generation. We've put too much money into the second generation to simply kill it. However, that means that we need you to use a cheaper display. We need you to use cheaper manufacturing because we're basically going to be lucky to get in to sell our first run here. So don't be super ambitious. Or are they going to simply say that, okay, if there's no way there's going to be another generation, then there's no way we can possibly fail. We may as well just go nuts with this one.
Yeah, but their cost also, I think, was a big factor. Like previously, it was hard to tell whether people wanted a cheap phone or a small phone, and it successfully conflated those markets with the original SE. And now they have both the cheaper and the smaller, but also a bunch of things went wrong. Like those Qualcomm modems were really expensive, and they couldn't get BOE panels, which were basically Samsung panels that BOE decided to start making at a much lower price. So they had to go with LG or Samsung panels, which are much more expensive. And I think that mini at that price might have been the problem. And if they can get it $50-$70 lower without the carrier incentives, or even with the carrier incentives, maybe it's got a chance. I don't know.
I feel like the part of the problem is the phone got so big that, the phone is so close to the mini that you're kind of like, well, you kind of want to go all the way up to an iPad. I bought a lot of minis, but I don't buy them anymore. It's just the size it doesn't distinguish itself in the same way it used to.
We're talking about the phones, not the iPad.
You're talking about the iPad minis. I do like those. We're talking about the iPhone mini, which did not sell well. I'm sorry to say.
I had I had an audio glitch, and I got in the middle of it.
You were thinking while talking. That was your mistake.
No.
Well, I was thinking while talking. How dare you? Yeah.
But Renee's absolutely right, though. The Samsung last week revealed the A52, which is their best selling phone, and for what's going to be a $400 US equivalent phone. The stuff that used to be premium, or even this year premium, this phone will have a high refresh display, either 90 or 120. Wow. It's going to have under display fingerprint. It's going to have a phone. It's going to have an earphone jack. Sorry, have to get it that
Yay!
in. But all modern radios. And meanwhile, we're thinking about, well, wouldn't it be nice if the premier phone, the flagship iPhone, has under the display fingerprint? So it must be really, really difficult now to, if you're going to sell a phone for a certain price point. And if you're targeting it towards people who are very, very sensitive towards price, you're now competing with excellent phones from top tier manufacturers that have not 2019 or 2020 features, but 2021 features.
Yeah, but do consider that this A52, the best-selling Samsung phone, is 6.5 inches. It's huge. So
okay, true.
these are not mini phones either. And I think the other reason the A52 sells so well is because it's offered by carrier stores.
Right.
And Samsung has very different price structures from Apple because both they're their own manufacturer, and they have huge businesses that subsidize their mobile business quite often.
It's a nice display.
I think that even if you don't get the same, even if you. I guess the only thing is there's a market there for that because people want to stay in the ecosystem as well.
Right.
Like that's the problem that Apple has, is that they are supplying the entire ecosystem. And so you can't just leave that market behind. You really have to. So even if it doesn't work, you almost have to keep on doing it. I mean, I want to give my kids a less expensive or smaller phone. I don't necessarily want to give them an expensive one. So I think that Apple has to serve the market, even if
you have to wonder though if Samsung.
They do that with
Samsung makes like so many models. Everybody knows about the Galaxy S and the Note.
Every quarter inch.
But they make so many models, and I think that's the philosophy exactly. Is we want to keep you in the Samsung ecosystem, so we're going to make a phone for every user.
Well, I don't even know if it's that as important for Samsung to keep everybody in the ecosystem as it is for Apple, because Apple's, it's an OS issue. But no, Samsung is kind of they see themselves as an ecosystem. They customize it so much, right?
And they sell watches and other devices that go with the phone, and I feel like they really are the closest to Apple of all the Android manufacturers in terms of an ecosystem play.
Even OnePlus has a watch now. I mean, they're getting there. They're all working on it.
Oh, they announced, did the OnePlus announce the 9? I think they did.
Yeah, they did. And it is with Apple slides and Apple website. It is so funny to watch, but it looks like an amazing phone.
Wait, where is is this it? OnePlus?
And the watch doesn't run Android Wear Wear OS.
So this is the website.
Sadly, par for the course.
Oh, it does look like the Apple website. Wow.
The slides they used were the exact same ones with the little square boxes with all the little illustration. It was like I literally did a double take as I was watching it.
Well, it's an homage.
Yeah.
Yes. It is.
But that goes to the basic point. I mean, I think I've demonstrated over the years on the show that there are very few nerds with more who's paid more of a social and personal handicap for the intensity of his nerdity, interested in technology than myself. However, I did buy a $350 baseline Pixel 4a. Thinking that it was just going to be, there are no iPhones or Android phones that super excite me this year, but I do need to upgrade. This will tide me over until next year when I will buy either a new switch over to the iPhone or find something else. And I've not noticed any sort of a downgrade between this. By the level of sophistication of what you can put into a cheap phone nowadays is so great that it becomes difficult to tell people why they would want to spend, why would they expect to spend $800 to $900 on a phone when they can spend less than $500 and get something that is half the price but 90% as good. You just have to figure out if that 10% is such a big deal for you that it's worth the extra money.
So I'm looking at the OnePlus 9. Obviously
Marquez got huge shutter lag on it, and he's hoping to fix it. But basically, it takes a picture, shows a preview, then the picture changes after the preview, and he says if he puts it down too fast, it gets a blur.
So, I've seen camera phones do that before. That's really frustrating. They branded Hasselblad, but that just shows you how little these brand names mean these days.
Yeah.
How much did Hasselblad have?
It's a $150 million thing over 2 years, but it sounds like this is the least of the. The least of the actual branding is this year.
Yeah. This is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888, which is the newest Snapdragon. It comes with OnePlus Buds, which looks so much like AirPods that the U.S. Customs stopped them, thinking they were Apple AirPod counterfeits. And all of that, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gig storage, $729. So that's a pretty competitive price if you're but I think Alex, you nailed it.
Dual batteries for faster charging, which is an interesting idea. You give up some
interesting.
capacity and you can charge in parallel, so it goes twice as
that's
fast.
interesting. But I think, Alex, you're right. People want to live in the ecosystem. They're OnePlus users, or they're Samsung users, or they're iPhone users. It's kind of hard.
I think that, the problem is, especially if you start with the family plan is the thing that really pulls you in, because you have, your kids and your wife and everybody else have access to all these apps and movies and all the other things that you have based on the family plan. And so it takes all the fun out of it. You start getting outside the ecosystem. That's the issue.
Yeah. The Pro version is a little more expensive. 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gig storage, $1,069. So that's a little bit less. That's more in the Apple range. Yeah. Why?
But it's.
Go ahead.
Oh, just very, very quickly. A lot of one of Apple's marketing problems is that a lot of the technology they put in isn't worthwhile as a bullet marketing point. It's fit and feature and function sort of stuff. Like you're talking about how there's a shutter lag, or there's the picture, the photography works kind of weird. So much of the hardware, so much of what seems to be over-engineered CPUs and performance in there is just so that you tap the button, you immediately get a brilliant picture, and there's no lag, there's no why is the screen black for half a second before it bounces back to the home screen? You touch a button, you get a brilliant picture, and it's continuously hiding all of the muscle behind that screen that is making that simple thing happen. This is why, as Renee said, I think that the highlight of design is no longer going to be, oh, look how many megapixels this camera has, or hey, look at the quality of the screen. It's going to be things like, how can we change the way that this device charges so that it charges faster without the cost of fast charging? Hey, what if we do two batteries in parallel? Great.
It's kind of wacky.
People like that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Yeah, kind of interesting. If you're an iOS developer, probably if you're a pro iOS developer, I don't need to warn you, but if you are maybe, and I think there are a lot of people learning to write iOS, or you've got an app and you're doing it yourself, you should be aware attackers are going after you. There's an open source project that's legit called Tab Bar Interaction. You might think, oh, that'd be very useful for me in my iOS project, but it's been forked. And this is, unfortunately easy to do with an open source repository. It's been forked and republished with a Trojanized code library. It attempts to install advanced surveillance malware on your Mac if you're an iOS developer, because it's an Xcode project. So it installs a custom version of Eggshell, which is an open source backdoor that spies on users through their mic, camera, and keyboard. So just be aware. I think this is true in general. If you're forking an open source repository or cloning it and using it, you might be extra careful because you don't know what you're getting. The only warning a developer would get after running the Xcode project would be something looking like this. Project is a workspace downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? So there's a little warning. Opening, building, or running a project containing a malicious code can harm your Mac or compromise your privacy. Be sure you trust the source of the project before opening it. And then there's a trust and open button, so be careful. Just a little bit of a warning. Tim Cook says, we're coming home. Can't wait to say good morning to people as they walk in the door at the Apple campus. He told People Magazine, it's a People exclusive. Boy, Tim's really
sexiest CEO of the year.
Yeah. He anticipates Apple implementing a hybrid environment for employees in the coming months. And what is People? Why are you putting little emojis on Tim Cook? Knock it off. So my gut says, he says, for us, it's still very important to physically be in touch with one another because collaboration isn't always a planned activity. Steve Jobs always said that. It's bumping into each other over the course of the day and advancing an idea you just had, and you really need to get together to do that. So no hard date, but we're starting to see more and more companies say, "Yep, you're coming home."
I mean, one of the challenges is going to be with everyone who built open offices. It's just how do you manage that?
Yeah,
it's pretty big cluster.
Well, and and the Apple campus is open, big time. right?
Well, the main one, yeah. I mean, there was, the main one's open, but not all of them are open.
Yeah, Cooks, when asked about that, said, we're still figuring that out, to be honest with you. Put up plastic barriers in that beautiful open space. I don't know.
Those little teller windows they have at banks.
Yeah. Although, got to point out, and People Magazine does point this out, Apple's done all right in the quarantine. They managed to come up with a whole new processor platform for their Macs, and they did that $100 million racial justice initiative, and they pledged to be carbon neutral. There's a lot.
They kept busy.
Cook said, we did all that while reinventing the way we were working. We were very much an in-person team because we believe that's best for collaboration, but we knew that was no longer possible or not possible for this period of time, so we had to reinvent ourselves, and I really give the team credit for rising to the occasion.
I think what will be interesting is as the other companies don't do that, whether it becomes harder to compete for programmers and so on and so forth when people are like, well, I can just live anywhere, making that salary, and I don't have to be in Silicon Valley to do that, I think that's going to be a challenge, not in the short term, but there's an awful lot of people moving out of that are still working at Google and Facebook and other things like that, and taking advantage of the fact that they're not going to be forced to come back to relocate, and the chances of them wanting to come back to California are pretty low.
I kind of wish I could play this from People Magazine, but they'll probably take it down. But they did 2-minute rapid fire questions, I guess via iMessages. What time do you get up in the morning? 4 a.m. Tim, go back to bed. What time do you go to sleep?
I go to bed at night somewhere around the 9:30 kind of range.
Wow, he does not sleep enough. 9:30 to 4 a.m.
What time does he go to sleep?
Yes, that's right. What's the first app you open?
And of course, People is on there, and so I get to keep.
Oh, come on, Tim. You don't have to kiss their butts. They're happy to have you.
Hand over your phone right now and show me the bookmark.
He says he opens People.
And
he says he can't live without coffee. All right. Coffee and Apple Watch. Last TV show you binged.
Ted Lasso.
Of course it's going to be an Apple TV Plus.
So optimistic.
Yeah, it's so optimistic. Well, I can see Tim watching that. Yeah. Who's your favorite artist? If he says People.
Kasama.
He said who? Kasama?
Strength training.
He likes strength training. All right. Anyway, I'll let you watch the rest. I don't want to get taken down by People. There's lots more juicy tidbits. People.com. I want to reverse a plug I made.
It's like Twitter unedit button.
I wish there were an edit button. So David Dobrik's Dispo, which was a photo sharing app.
Yeah.
Recent investigations by Business Insider about sexual assault with Dobrik's Vlog Squad. A number of early investors have pulled out. Spark Capital has severed all ties with Dispo. Apparently, Dobrik has left as well. So I'm sorry. I had no idea. I didn't, and I plugged it. And the truth is, it was kind of dopey, and I stopped using it anyway. So there.
Brady, I didn't know what it was until it was evidently dead.
Yeah,
somehow missed the whole party.
Yeah, you missed the whole party. It's been a kind of a nasty situation for the Vlog Squad. Goldman Sachs cleared of bias. New York State review of Apple Card Department found no fair lending violations. I think this goes back to David Heinemeier Hansen, DHH's
he is
tweet.
So quick to get angry on Twitter.
Yeah, saying my wife got a different credit limit than I did, and
but he does no due diligence first. He just goes right to Twitter in the angriest way possible about everything.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that the New York State Department of Financial Services has to investigate tweets, but I guess that's the world we live in now. The viral tweets prompted
I always feel like
the review.
I don't like the way he does it, but I'm happy that people investigate this stuff because it's important stuff. It's just the methods are often questionable.
Nothing good ever came out of Twitter. Anyway, I think that it is good they investigated it, and you know what?
Yes.
they're completely equitable, according to the investigation.
I mean, I think that the rush to have opinions about this stuff and throw it up on Twitter, and then which also accelerates the rush for the press to say stuff about it, creates an environment that makes it hard. I mean, I think it's part of what undermines people believing anything.
Yep.
Because it's
completely agree.
It gets thrown out.
I saw it on Twitter, man. It's got to be true.
Well, that's why Craig Mazin famously left Twitter. He said that if he felt compelled to have an opinion instantly about everything, regardless of how little he knew about it,
yes.
It was just like a social compulsion. And
that's our job. We're
it.
the pundits. Just keep that in mind.
We're going to give you the wrong information.
If anybody's going to give you bad information, it's us.
Yes,
if anybody's going to think without speaking or speak without thinking, it's us. Yeah. We're trained in that. Niantic has got a new augmented reality program. They're partnering with Nintendo on, I don't know, but maybe you know what Pikmin are, Renee. What are Pikmin?
I don't. I must be so out of it. Like, Pokemon are trendy and hip to me, and I'm sure this is like, everyone's going, what, you don't know what this is? You people are so old, but I really don't.
It looks very similar. The app is being developed in the Niantic's Tokyo office. Will launch later this year. Will include gameplay activities to encourage walking. It's back, boys and girls. You can leave the house now and make walking more delightful. I have to say, Pokemon Go was made more delightful by the fact that we could play it at home. Don't you agree, Renee? Just the raid passes and all that?
Yeah, I have quibbles. Like a lot of the stuff I feel like they've been doing lately is incredibly tedious. It's like do 300, like it's like endurance tests.
Oh God, yes.
It's like it's like read the dictionaries. Do 300 excellent throws or something.
They're trying to find a way
not as interesting
to level people up. When they increase the level from 40, they want to make it really hard. Lisa complains. I don't play it anymore, but Lisa complains all the time.
But the hardness is tedium. It's not actual skill. It's just
grinding.
doing it 500 times.
Grinding.
Yeah,
Are a lot of people still? I guess they're still making a lot of money at it, so I'm assuming a lot of people are still playing it.
Oh God,
like
yes.
I played it for a couple months, and then I was like, okay, this is great, and then I went on to something else.
I kind of lost interest, but Lisa, it's one of her favorite games, and she because of it, we still go for a walk. She goes for a walk twice a day because she needs to go out
searching,
spin things, and fight battles and stuff. Here's Pikmin, or Pikmin. I don't know how you pronounce it. Pikmin 3. They're little things that live in the, I don't know, woods or whatever. But I'm the last person that should say anything. They're adorable. They are kind of adorbs. This is a Nintendo Switch game. And then you're collecting berries and stuff. I think a lot of games,
because not hard for them, but they haven't had another success. Like Harry Potter game didn't do anywhere.
It was not
well
great. That was the grind that you talk about. That was really, it just was a lot of grinding. This looks like fun. Pikmin look, I don't know. This feels reminiscent of something. Maybe
the nerds still play Ingress.
Yeah. Are people still playing Ingress? That's the original Niantic.
The nerds, like the hardcore Android nerds, are playing Ingress still, yeah.
So you go by the post office and it's still got a
all the modifiers on
going. Tim Cook has written a op-ed for the Wall Street Journal. Do you think Tim writes these, or do you think he has people?
I think he writes them. I don't know about the decision. I think it was paywalled though, wasn't it? People were complaining that it was an op-ed about it. Like,
I don't know why you wouldn't pay $149 a year for the Wall Street Journal. Doesn't everybody?
$40 a month.
Yeah, well, it's just that's what you get if you don't buy the journal.
Money.
How do you know what's going on?
Yeah. When the piece went up, I had to say I contain multitudes. I can both praise him for writing this piece that talks about the inequities of racial injustice and economic factors that divide us as a society, while also pointing out that you need to either pay for a $40 a month subscription to the Wall Street Journal or $10 a month to Apple News Plus to be able to read it at all.
I don't understand why you wouldn't have a subscription. Yeah, that's a very good point. They should get their own website.
If they had their own blog, then he could just simply post it for free. But,
there you go.
I guess they didn't do that well that year.
But on the upside, they do get the special Wall Street Journal portrait of Tim Cook, which is quite nice.
But now he's got it. It's done. It's like it's been done. Like he owns it now. So.
Oh man, I came this close to having one. They were preparing an article.
Lana Stern doesn't even use hers anymore. I guess it's like a fleeting.
This close. They were going to do an article on me, and they asked for a picture so they could make this thing. these very famous dot portraits, but they didn't
Probably do it
it
in an app, Leo. Like Face app probably does it or something.
I did do it in an app, but I don't
like 2 Photoshop filters, like like a trace contour and
I don't like how it came out.
halftone or something.
Maybe somebody
Alex
will
tell you how
do
to
it. Yeah, Alex probably.
I'm sure it was a Pixel Core class back in the day.
Look at these.
A lot of those, I don't know what they're different now. The Wall Street Journal ones are different now. They used to be done by hand.
Like they look like they're and then now they're doing shading and stuff.
Some filter.
Yeah,
There's some filter. I think
here's some other ones. Here's Naomi Osaka.
Probably a Snapchat filter.
Tom Hanks.
I miss the old ones. The little dot.
They're a little more shaded. I like. You should be done with India ink and a fine point pen, painstakingly over many hours.
Yep, I think that handcrafted look still looks better.
Yeah,
by Bill Watterson. He should be doing it for you.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. Your picks of the week, gentlemen, if you will, prepare them. We would appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by Udacity. You are smart people. I know that you are a brilliant tech person because you watch this show. You have great taste and perspicacity. Perhaps you'd like to get a job at one of those big companies like Microsoft or IBM or Google or Amazon. A tech job, Udacity. It's a unique online educational offering designed to bridge the gap between what you learned in school and the information you need to get a great job in your career. You're going to learn employable skills. And we know that because they work with industry leaders and experts who understand what skills are most applicable in the job market today. Once you enroll as a student in a specific course, you can watch the course. They've got videos. They're great. But I find, and I think this is one of the things that makes Udacity great, just watching them doesn't get you all the way there. You also need to apply what you learn. And that's why Udacity includes in the course a series of projects that you will complete. They will be judged by humans. You get human help, too. All the projects reviewed by qualified professionals. You get real human help, personalized code reviews, and access to qualified mentors 24/7. There are lots of great free courses, too, on Udacity. I want to point out you should check those out if you're interested. You'll learn how to network. They've got courses on that, how to get noticed, how to land the job you want. But the nano degrees are really the most amazing thing. Consumer and for business clients, after you get these degrees, you are highly desirable in the job market. The top 10 include data analyst, very big right now, program for data science with Python. Actually, that's one I'm thinking of taking. I did their Python course. It was fantastic. Digital marketing. Programs are prepared and created with the help of companies like IBM and Microsoft and Google and Amazon. People from all over the world use Udacity. It's one of the reasons it's kind of always open 24/7, because not only are people all over the world, but we know that, you might be taking these classes. You have a day job and taking the classes at night. They can help you with that. AI, cloud computing, data science, autonomous systems. Want to learn to create self-driving vehicles? Programming and development, product management, digital marketing, all the tech-adjacent roles as well. Udacity has flexible payment options. You can learn at your own pace and schedule. Right now, they're working with the Blacks in Technology Foundation. They've partnered to provide 1,000 free scholarships to help increase educational and professional opportunities for the Black community. The first cohort of this year, 2021, includes 150 scholarships. Applications open this month. If you're Black and you want to get a job in tech, this is a great opportunity. Both organizations want to increase diversity in tech roles by creating a pipeline of qualified candidates in desirable fields like programming for data science, product management, cloud, DevOps engineering. Look, this is the education that will not only broaden your horizons, but help you get a job. So go to udacity.com/twit right now. udacity.com/twit. 50% off through May 30th, 2021. Use the coupon code TWIT to redeem this offer. The discount of 50%, half off, will be applied at checkout. Udacity. udacity.com/twit. Don't forget that coupon code TWIT. Thank Udacity for their support. And thank you for supporting us by using that code. That way they'll know you saw it here. Alex Lindsay, I want to start with you today because I know you're going to cost me some big bucks. So
not expensive. Well, so it's indirectly expensive. So this is We had Don Kamarachka on Office Hours.
Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah, so he came on Office Hours on Monday and just blew us away. And so we were just like, we're all getting ready to buy this book, and I just thought I'd put it out there to keep your eye on it. I think I think you might be able to pre-order the ebook version, but while it was hot to look at, I wanted people to see it. This is on macro photography, and he is serious. So he's a serious, really, really, and just a great thinker about this, and just really impressed. And he showed a couple pieces of some of the imagery from the book. And one of the things that we were talking about is stereoscopic 3D photography, which is, really, really interesting. And there's a section, in this book about it. But there's just tons of macro photography, and it's a very technical task, but not particularly expensive if you already have a phone. I mean, already not a phone, but a camera. So if you have a good camera, you just need. I mean, there's a wide variety of them, but a little bit of macro hardware to start taking some really great photos, and you can even take them handheld.
But there's a lot of skill in lighting and focus
and thinking about it, and it's one of those things. Because it's technical, it's not something normally you would just say just go out and take a lot of photos, and you can kind of learn it.
Yeah.
There is just tons and tons and tons of tricks on how do you get this out, how do you make it work, and I think that he is. What he showed us on Monday, and it's on YouTube, so you can check it out on YouTube on Office Hours. But it just looks. I mean, the stuff he's been doing is just amazing.
And he's really
cool. Dug deep, and the work is, really, really amazing. So, I would, but breaking it down if you're interested in it, I just think it's gorgeous work. Like just something really pretty to look at, Anyway, so it's really taking, and this level, like if you see that's a stereo, and I have.
Oh, you need some sort of way to view it, though, right?
For that one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he actually sent this to me a while ago, I think last year, and this is like old fashioned.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's got the little cards on the front.
Oh, I love it.
And this is a little B. I think that they went past the B there, but you literally just look in here, and it is 3D. Like it's a 3D. It's like 3D circa 1880. I guess these are about 100 years old, and they you can buy them on Etsy, I think. But
he says it's not an art book; it's a how-to book. Macro photography: the universe at our feet. It is pre-order right now, but it's the PDF version is very affordable, $27. So that's a good deal if you pre-order.
And that's what you want is, I mean, the pictures in it are gorgeous, but really with macro photography, you have to have the nuts and bolts. The nuts and bolts are everything, because it is complicated and technical to do, but very, very interesting. So he's got a whole bunch of us thinking about it.
It seems like the book on macro photography. Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Don Kamarachka. Nice. Good pick. And
it'll be expensive once you have the book, because I'm already buying, looking at the extra gear that I want.
Lights and my tripod.
I need a box and need this. Yeah.
I got to get an infrared thing. And the Office Hours, you can join them by going to bit.ly/THEOFFICEHOURS, capitalizing each individual, the first letter of each individual word, but no spaces. Or just go to youtube.com/Alex Lindsay, and see what they do, and then you can. The invites.
Our birthday is tomorrow. Not birthday.
You've been doing this a year.
365. The 365th one in a row is tomorrow. So
it's amazing.
So
24/7, 365, ladies and gentlemen. The hardest work in the world. That's amazing.
So
I don't think I brushed my teeth 365 days. Straight days.
Alex makes streamers feel lazy.
He hasn't missed an episode. Unbelievable.
No, I've missed an episode here and there, but the team has not missed an episode. I've missed about 4 or 5 due to production, but or maybe 10 or something like that. But the group has met every single day. So our 365th day is tomorrow, and we're gonna just celebrate it by just talking about what happened over from
sounds
day
like
one.
A must-view episode.
It should be fun. I mean, it'll be. It won't be probably as technical. It'll be more philosophical, I think, tomorrow.
Office Hours, ALEXLINDSAY is how Alex spells his name. And if you go to his YouTube channel, you'll see They record only a portion of it, but you'll see those.
But yeah, it's
and otherwise YouTube would run out of space.
Yes, there's.
I mean, we had Don was on Monday talking about stereoscopic photography, and then today we were talking about isolating locations for audio, so how to isolate for audio. Tomorrow we have our little thing on Thursday. We have Chris Meyer talking about modular synths. Friday we're talking about building streaming capacity in AWS, and then Friday we talk about education and Resolve. So it's busy every week.
Did you make a deal with Zoom to have their big Zoom logo in the lower right there?
No, that's just what happens when you stream from Zoom. That's the deal you make. So
that's the deal, huh?
Yeah. So what I'm
because we're using Zoom with you now. I want to use Zoom more. You convinced me it's the right way to go.
It's especially now that they've opened up the API for being able to use the infrastructure.
Right.
It's going to be a lot. That just happened today. So
yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So people like us can build tools that will let us customize. You can imagine what we're looking at, or what would it take us to build a tool so that instead of just using Zoom, you could be using the Twit version of Zoom that does all the things you want it to do for for back and forth. So it's
and you can tell Emery Wells that somebody called the radio show the other day. He was works in Hollywood doing movies. Of course, the radio show's on in LA and among other places. And he called in and said, "Hey, have you heard about Frame.io? It's really amazing. Everybody's using it now." And I said, "No, tell me all about it." I pretended I didn't know, but the word's getting out on Frame.io. So
tons of YouTubers use it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, we run all of our post-production in Frame.io now.
That's saying a lot. Yeah. That means that's amazing, because that means you're using the cloud.
Oh yeah, we just put everything up into the folder, and then everyone starts pulling stuff out and working on it, and all the reviews go to the client that way, and everything's delivered. It's really great.
Amazing. Andy Anako, pick of the week, my friend.
My pick is a really great app that I didn't know I was looking for a long time, but turns out that I have. It's called Keypad, and all it does is it turns your desktop Mac into a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard for any Bluetooth device that can use a mouse or keyboard. Exactly. And
how can it do that? That's amazing.
Elfin magic, and somehow this is actually legal according to the App Store. This is not like some sort of like a Mac hack sort of thing. You've installed this very, very simple app. All you have to do, it's just an app. It's not like an extension or anything like that. All you have to do on your Mac is make it discoverable, obviously, and then from that point after, you get this nice little menulet in your menu bar, and whatever device it is, whether it's an iPad, whether it's an iPhone, another computer, an Android phone, an Android tablet, whatever, you just simply look for on that device.
I'm getting this. I've been using Synergy to try to control a Linux computer next to my iMac, and it's funky and stuff. Just do Bluetooth. The computer supports Bluetooth. Yeah. Now is it easy to switch from one to the other?
Very, very easy. It supports the free version supports only one connection at a time, and and only gives you a 2-week trial for the mouse support. However, once you spend, now brace yourself, $2.99. I will lend it to you if you need the money. For $2.99, you can have multiple devices and mouse support. So at that point, all the devices that you've ever like set up for this are just there inside the little menulet. So now I can just simply select Pixel 4a in my phone and now be connected to it. Or you can create a hotkey, and when the connection is active, there's also a tiny little little window that also has like media controls on it, so you can start, stop, playback, do stuff like that. And even the keyboard stuff even works with like taking pictures, like the camera shutter shortcut. And for the only slightly tricky thing out of necessity is for the mouse to work, you have to just tap Control and Alt, and that will simply move your mouse pointer, so to speak, control from your Mac to this whatever external device it is. But it's also very, very easy. But again, the same key switch will turn it back off again. And I've been using it for about a week. I have not. It just works exactly the way that you would hope. There's no muss, there's no fuss, there's not okay, but there's no point in which I had to restart or anything because I needed to get keyboard control back to the Mac and it didn't work. It just works flawlessly and wonderfully. It's the big need I had for it is that on the mystery, like actual writing table behind the mystery screen, I have like 2 or 3 different computers and 2 or 3 different operating systems. And you can buy a KVM switch, which is hardware that does that kind of a thing, but it's just
not for $3
for what I want to do. Not for $3, and it's never. I'm working on 3 things simultaneously. It's always something like I'm doing like I'm ripping a Bluetooth. Excuse me. I'm ripping a Blu-ray on one machine, and now all I need to do is click on okay, that's right. Now please transcode this in a transcoder app. So that's not worth having a $200 device or an extra keyboard and mouse. But this one, I just again click the hotkey. I'm suddenly connected to the Mac Mini instead of the MacBook, and I'm off and running. Then I can click right back in. Again, can't recommend it highly enough. It works beautifully, and it's only about a year old. You might have heard of it. There was a Bluetooth bug in the in Mac OS earlier versions that made this kind of stop working, but that's all solved. And as I said, I can't think of anything to complain about. The only complaint I want to make is that I wish there were another button saying that, God, $299 is not enough money. Please have another $10 because it just works beautifully.
It's a simple idea, but I really see the utility. Bluetooth-keyboard.com. It's in the
and does take you to the App Store, so it's not as though you're side loading something.
Yeah. Very nice, Andy. Good pick. Andy Anako, when will you be on WGBH next?
Thursday at 1 p.m. It is Pledge Week, so if you tune in early, you might be reminded of how valuable public broadcasting is to you in your life.
WGBH in Boston's worth every penny.
It helps keep me in like lint rollers for the dark clothing that I tend to favor on air. So
help keep Andy in lint rollers.
WGBHnews.org, so you can listen to it live or later.
Thanks, Andy. Renee Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So I have an oddball one this week, but it's something that I spent a lot of time looking through and I really enjoyed. And I love the idea of media awareness. So this is the newish YouTube channel by Hayden Hillier-Smith, who is not well known on his own, but he edits some of the biggest YouTube channels in the business, like YouTube channels with tens of millions of subscribers, and famously will take 7 hours of their footage and every day and turn it into like a 6 or 7 minute video for their channel. And in the first few videos, he breaks down what makes a YouTube video. And it's not like editing, like you see some Final Cut windows, but he never talks about the mechanics of editing. It is purely the psychology of editing, and it's all based around earning consideration. So like he points out early that people will watch a 60-second TikTok, but then also pay attention to a 3-hour podcast, and it's about earning people's attention every second, every moment of the video. So he goes through and he breaks down like a Mr. Beast video and a Slow-Mo Guys video and a Logan Paul video, all these different videos, and shows, how when you click that button, they instantly give you something. Like, it's not like an episode of Survivor when Mr. Beast buys an island and says the person who stays on it the longest is going to win it. The minute you click that button, somebody's being thrown off immediately. So you're propelled into the story, and then how they change pace, change views, change rhythm, how they speed up to give you gratification, and then create curiosity. It's a whole bunch of really psychology of editing stuff, and I spent a long time looking at it. I found it endlessly fascinating. He does some mainstream stuff too, like he talks about Mandalorian always stopping action sequences a few frames early to sort of keep the pace going really fast, or like how Tenet kept talking about people are shooting us, but never bothered to show you who was shooting at anybody at any given time. And the whole thing is, to me, it was endlessly fascinating about how YouTube is developing, or I guess online video is developing its own language in terms of editing. So
I like this because I agree with you. I'm not going to ever edit another thing in my life, God willing, but because it's the worst, most tedious work ever. But it's good for media literacy to understand what's going on and why some things work and why some things don't, and what they're doing to get your attention. I think this looks great. I will be watching. It's
really like, he didn't do this video, but I saw someone else do it. It was really interesting because when they moved, I talked about this on a previous show, but when they move some movies onto streaming services, they don't work. There's this statistic called retention. There's a few things you care about in online video. One is click-through rate, how many people see your poster or thumbnail and actually will click on it. Then there's average view percentage, which is how much of your video or your show that you watch. And for YouTubers, this is a lot. Like, if someone drops off in the first 10 seconds, it's terrible. You want them, like, good is around 50, pretty good is around 60, a very, very few people can get up to like 70, 75, which is astonishing for YouTube. But some movies, when they move them over and people watch them on streaming, before you were captured in the theater, you went to the movie, you paid your money, there was no way you were leaving. So they could do these long character arcs where like the bad person gets redeemed. Now they're finding on streaming services, people just, oh, I don't like him. And they just click out immediately. And they have no time to earn the story. So they have to change the opening sequence to like hint at what's going to happen later on in the movie, just so that you'll invest the time to actually see it. And I find all that psychology, again, endlessly fascinating.
I do. I find it very interesting too. Yeah. Editing's hard work. Jeez.
Yes.
I can't stand it. I keep wanting to get into video, but I'll write it and I will shoot it.
Yeah.
And they'll take me 3 or 4 hours, but the editing, I just get stuck for days and days and days. I have so much admiration for Renee and others that have just part of that daily workflow, just sitting down and watching the same bloated footage and the same bloated personality in my case over and over again.
Oh, I'm totally with you. I foolishly years ago, because I had done, I had to sit in a lot of edit suites with an editor and an Avid system. And I said years ago, nobody will ever, no end user will ever want to edit video. It's just too painful and time consuming. Boy, was I wrong. In fact,
it was weird this week.
People like Hillier Smith are brilliant editors, young guy, right? What was weird?
Yeah, and every day, hours a day. But like, I started a TikTok this week, and I wanted to cross-post to Instagram Reels, and I didn't realize Instagram Reels is only 30 seconds. So I had to quickly re-edit everything to fit in. So I made like a really short cut.
Is that what you did?
No, I had to make it shorter. Because TikTok goes up to a minute, and so do YouTube Shorts, but Instagram Reels are only 30 seconds.
Why would they do that too? Like,
guess why? Why would
it makes no sense.
That? Yeah, why would they do that? What's your TikTok?
But I recut it down. Oh, because Renee Ritchie was taken, I literally made my TikTok handle Renee Ritchie was taken.
All one word?
Yep.
It sounds like you were raptured.
Renee Ritchie?
That's a wonderfully evocative title.
It is kind of good. I kind of like it. Renee Ritchie was taken. I did. I searched for Renee Ritchie, and there's a woman on it. So this is good to know. Yeah. So you have to take what is a 30-second reel and expand it to a minute. Is that what you do?
I just left it at 30 seconds because they say like for shorts, really like the shorter really is the better.
Yeah, you could do a 30-second. I see a lot of 30-second TikToks.
I know on TikTok. Here's the worst part is TikTok, the maximum is 1 minute. And when you turn it on, if someone isn't picking up speed really fast, you look down at the scroll bar. If there's a scroll bar, it means it's going to go to a minute or longer. If there's no scroll bar, it means it's 15 seconds. And you make a decision like, I'll give them 15 seconds. They're going to come to they're probably going to come to a good conclusion here because there's a lot of likes or whatever. But if you see them starting slow and you see that ticker all the way across, you're like, I'm gonna move on to the next one.
There was this amazing
I'm not gonna sit
video.
through a minute. I'm not gonna sit through a minute of
Swipe,
this.
swipe.
Yeah. Exactly.
They were showing how TikTokers make these videos, and they don't like. People thought they edit them. They don't. They take the thing, they hold down the button.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hold down the button,
They edit
change their-
in camera,
and they
yeah.
do it all in their head.
Yeah.
And their heads fly off, and they go through their own mouths and stuff, and it's all done in camera.
It's kind of amazing. My son started doing cooking TikToks under the weird handle sodium_deficiency. But I look at this stuff and say, why don't you cook this stuff at home? This is good looking. This is good stuff. I want some of this stuff. I don't know. I'll have to ask. I think Henry knows how to edit. He's a pretty good editor. So.
No, that's another thing that is so great to see as an older person, that you see what happens when a generation grows up with a technology where they never knew a world in which there was not nonlinear digital editing and a really nice camera that you just happen to carry with you. Whereas we grew up with, I grew up with, hey, I'm going to go to that one store that stupidly lets you return a VCR within 30 days and get a free refund, not knowing that I'm buying one once every 2 months to like edit a video project with a clipboard and a piece of paper. It is again, there's so many. I've said this before, but I have so much praise for these people in their 20s and 30s, because there's so many channels that I watch. I'm in awe of this 26, 27, 28-year-old person who sews vintage dresses, that they have just such an instinctive and beautiful knowledge of how to tell a story with video. It's just wonderful to see.
It's in their blood, isn't it? It's fascinating.
And they're making a
they
lineage now,
understand.
like the same way. Yeah.
They're unconsciously absorbed all this stuff, and now it's just in there. It's like, probably, Andy, you know how to write because you read so many books. You absorbed unconsciously, style.
I grew up with word processors. I did not know a time in which you couldn't just simply anytime you saw a way to improve something, you could easily go back and improve it almost immediately. And that certainly, I'm sure that changed my writing style.
Henry's 26, so he says he uses Premiere to edit these.
But they're social video native. Like that's the weird thing. It's like moving from stage to cinematics. Like we had for a while, we just filmed the stage, and then we learned the language of movies, and they natively understand.
That's right.
Like organically understand the vertical video. 60 seconds. Why are you people using editors? I don't need Final Cut. I just hold the button down 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Wow.
Well, and I think that the other thing is that this is how they're learning, and I think this is why we need to think about like how education works. Is that they're learning from all this video. My daughter's learning how to play the bass, and she mostly just watches.
Oh, Henry learned how to cook from YouTube. Yeah.
Right. And my kids watch some, my son's cooking something. I'm like, where did you get it? And it's some YouTube channel. That he
invariably. I tried to teach him the family spaghetti sauce and all this when he was a kid. No interest. But he's a great cook now because he learned it all on YouTube. It's kind of wild.
My wife, she goes up to, I think it's Epicurious, or she won't even make a meal if it hasn't been rated 1,000 times. Like she won't even she's like, I agree. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm not going to take any chances with that.
Yep. Why bother?
Exactly.
Why bother? Real quickly, I just wanted to mention, it's not exactly a pick, but I have to say, for a long time, the knock on Macs, and especially on the new M1 Macs, is they're not for gaming, even though they could be, but games, people just don't develop for that platform. Stadia has started to change that, Google's Stadia, and now there's Steam Link finally available on the Macintosh. This is a similar idea, streaming your Steam games. They play them on their servers. You just see the video, which means you could play a lot of PC games on a Mac. So I think this may end up turning the Mac into a gaming platform.
If Apple wakes up, I hope so.
I hope so, yeah, because they really need to support this. But they have approved now Steam Link, which was available on iOS, now for the Mac. It's in the Mac App Store, and
not a gaming platform, but a gaming client.
Yeah,
but that works as long as you can actually you spend $2,000 for this machine, and part of your life is gaming, and part of it is desktop gaming. Okay, at least you can make your Steam purchases work on this $2,000-$3,000 laptop you just bought.
Tell me about it. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this thrilling, gripping edition of Mac Break Weekly. Renee Ritchie is at youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. I gave everybody else a chance to plug. I didn't give you a chance. What do you got coming up?
I just did a preview of what I expect to see at the Apple April event. And
good.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I'm trying to do this year I'm trying to do fewer but better videos. So I'm taking my time a little bit more.
Oh, all right. Interesting idea. What will we see in April? We didn't really talk about that today, so you'll have to watch Renee's video, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Andy Anako, WGBH Boston, Alex Lindsay, I guess I can say 090 Media and Office Hours. Both. He works all the time.
Merch.
Get the merch. I want the Office Hours hat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do Mac Break Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. The live streams at twit.tv/live. There's audio and video there. Tune in early. The pre-show's always interesting. Tune in late because there's shows usually goes long. It doesn't really matter. If you're watching live, chat live, irc.twit.tv. After the fact, all our shows are at twit.tv/mbw. You could still interact with us. We kind of have, a different way of doing it. We have a forum, twit.community, very active, fun, love it. And we now have a kind of a Twitter-alike called Mastodon. We've crossed our 1,000th user now on the twit.social Mastodon, which is great because it means it's starting to get a little lively in there. So that's a lot of fun. Twit.social if you want to join our Mastodon instance. We also can be found on YouTube, youtube.com/something. I don't even know. I guess Mac Break Weekly, or we got whatever we could get. You know what the easiest thing is? youtube.com/twit. That's the little bits, the Twit bits, but it also has links to all the other shows' YouTube channels. And, of course, maybe the easiest is to get a podcast application and subscribe. That way you'll get it automatically. Or follow if it's Apple's podcast app. You'll get it automatically the minute it's available, as long as you check that box to download it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Time to get back to work, though, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands-On Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.